Hey guys, how's it going? As you can currently tell, I am in the process of moving. This is going to become my studio here very soon, but for now it's just an empty room with a few tables in it and my computer sitting in front of it. So give it maybe like a week or so, and then hopefully we should be back on track to start really making videos the way that they're supposed to be made again. But until that point, I figured I wanted to do a video on a show that I just watched a few days ago, and I'm sure you have not heard the end of. CYBERPUNK 2077 Edgerunners. Holy shit. I cannot, I can't express how good the show was. Like, it was so goddamn good. I mean, I'm sure you guys all know about it by now. If you haven't watched it, why are you watching this, like, really shitty vlog video about it? You should just go watch it. It's like 10 episodes on Netflix. It won't take you too long. I finished it in like a day and a half. It was so good. But yeah, I mean, I just want to talk about a few things about it, just kind of talk about my thoughts, get it out there, and mainly just because I really wanted to make a video on it, but I can't because moving sucks. Anyway, my first impressions getting into it just basically being like, I've never played CYBERPUNK 2077. I never really played any CD Projekt Red games. I went completely blind, had no idea about anything about the characters. I knew Keanu Reeves was in it, because that was kind of a big part of the marketing for it, so that's about as far as I knew. But as soon as I started watching it, like, the first thing that I noticed was like, holy crap, yep, this is Trigger anime. David is just every Trigger protagonist ever. I watched Promare maybe last year, a few months ago, something to that effect, and I was just like, yep, that's Trigger. But beyond that, I also really started noticing, like, holy crap, dude, this world is actually cool. Like, I'm not gonna lie, when I heard CYBERPUNK 2077, I was a little bit put off by it, because, I mean, obviously their launch was so abysmal. I just knew pretty much what everybody else knew, which was game poo-poo. Why would I watch this? So I was like, you know what? I just hear everybody busting a collective nut over it, so I'll take your word for it. I'll go watch it. I'm glad I did. It was fantastic. I will say that the other big thing that I really liked about the world itself was how dark and gritty it was, despite being so fluorescent and bright, if that makes sense. So I think what I'm more or less referring to is the mood of the show. So it's like, you know, very centered around crime, which, I mean, to be fair, CYBERPUNK was pretty much just like a GTA kind of game. You blow up cars, you blow up buildings, you kill random people on the street just because we're all semi-fucked up in the head and we find that fun. I thought that everything was just handled well. It felt more like some of those early 2000s, like Black Lagoon, Ghost in the Shell. I know I just talked about that in the last video, but a lot of those like neo-noir / seinen shows, I guess. Obviously this one was just a little bit more linear. It was kind of episodic, but everything pretty much had a through line. Like, things happened throughout the course of it. But if I gotta be honest, it actually gave me a little bit more of like the da-da-da-da feels, where it was like, the show didn't exactly have any specific start to end point. Like, obviously, you know, you start here with David or whatever, but like the end point, it never really felt like this is what we're building to. There was no overarching goal, there was nothing like that, even though it was a serialized show. I thought that was really cool, and it felt more like a telling of just the gang itself. Just like, hey, this is a gang of people, this is what they're doing today. Have fun. And Da-da-da-da used to do that same thing. I think that worked very, very well for the show. I think what also really helps that was how lovable the characters were, because every single character had its own role and really fulfilled its own purpose. Now, mind you, they weren't very fleshed out, they weren't very deep, but that was totally cool. Like I said, I know in the previous video I talked a little bit about how I didn't really think that that was a good thing for Cowboy Bebop, but for CYBERPUNK, this made a lot more sense, mainly because the show was written around it. Since nobody was really supposed to be a very deep, complex character, they never really had to delve into it. There was a little bit of dynamicy when you look at like David or Lucy, which, you know, they're like the main characters, so of course they're gonna be a little bit more dynamic than the rest of them. But like the rest of the main cast, they're also completely static characters and didn't pretty much change at all from start to end. Which, again, works perfectly fine. They fulfilled their purpose, they did a good job, and they weren't really the focus, so it makes sense. But every single person interacted in a way that felt real. They all felt like one big family. Nobody was replaceable. Nobody felt like, okay, I'm watching you, you could leave the cast and I really wouldn't care that much. But I mean, that's really what, like, I'd like to just push as a point that CYBERPUNK did so well, was just like, every time we had any character from the main cast sitting on screen, I never once felt like, wow, I'm bored, I don't really want to watch this person. Every single person felt engaging. I was pretty much invested in seeing everybody from Maine to David, and especially Lucy and Rebecca, because as we all know, those two, they're the best. Rebecca was just such a fun character to watch, you're just over the top and crazy and zany, and I love that. Also, her thing for David was just great seeing. I don't know why. It was just adorable seeing her actually like keep wanting to go after David the whole time. It's just stuff like that that really adds a lot of depth to the small amount of interactions that you do get with her. Especially with her renewed focus in the latter half of the series. Perfect. Very well done. Lucy, I actually thought was going to be a little bit more like, you know, the badass femme fatale archetype. Like, this is pretty much, I thought when I saw her, I'm like, you're just gonna hone in super heavily on the whole femme fatale, badass, Revy from Black Lagoon, Kusanagi from Ghost in the Shell kind of main girl. And at first, it really did feel like that. That was really what they were going for. But as it kind of went on, you did see that break down a little bit. And she actually almost became more like a wife, for lack of better terms. I mean, obviously she was still badass, she's still doing stuff, but she definitely started like chilling out a lot more and felt more like I get to go home to Lucy now. Which, again, I thought was pretty refreshing. Like, it's great seeing that little bit of twist on the whole badass femme fatale thing, because I gotta be honest, if she would have stayed that, I'd have still been engaged, I'd have still liked her, she had a great design and all that, but I would have just been like, yeah, it's like just Revy from Black Lagoon. You've seen it once, you've seen it a million times, it's the same thing over and over and over, but no, they didn't, which again, good on you, Trigger, good on you, CD Projekt Red, you did great. I will say that there were a couple of criticisms, specifically two, which actually, surprisingly, the first one has to do a little bit with the whole, with pretty much Lucy. So, like I was saying, how she basically started as the femme fatale, and then kind of like dialed back into being like the wifey kind of character. I thought that was a little rushed. And I know I've heard some counter arguments against that, saying that it's like, oh, it's not rushed, it's dense. And I'm like, that just kind of describes rush to me, personally, because in my opinion, when I saw Lucy's guard up in those first few episodes, when, you know, you see David and Lucy out on the train trying to friggin' steal memory chips out of people's friggin' neck slots, I don't know. You got the feeling that she was gonna be more like the mentor, almost like Kiritsugu from Fate Zero, his surrogate mother. I can't remember her name right off the top of my head. Again, I'm just friggin' going off the top of my head right now. But I thought she was going to start kind of being a little bit more like that. But then as things kind of went on, they started feeling a little bit more on the same level. And I appreciated that. That felt natural. That felt nice. But as we went on and their relationship developed, it developed so quickly that I just had the feeling of like, where did this come from? I could see that the seeds were sown, but like they grew like that. It's not really how stuff like that happens. At least that's a little bit more subjective. I get some people could have probably been like, no, I thought it was handled well. I thought that, hey, some people can fall in love quick. I was just like, it just doesn't seem to fit her character or her archetype. That's just the one criticism. Pretty minor stuff. I could get over that. The second one, now again, this is even more subjective because I understand that other people's tolerances are a little bit different. Am I the only person who thought the general mature themes of the show did at a few points start feeling a little excessive? I guess the way I like to put this is a lot of fiction writing classes tell you that if you're going to include gore, nudity, drugs, mature themes, whatever, it has to serve a purpose. And if it's not serving that purpose, then it's just there for cheap shock value, and it really dilutes the whole. And I kind of think that Edgerunners did start crossing over into that whole feeling like cheap shock factor, because especially during the later half, everybody's naked all the time. Like, all the time. I don't have a problem with it. Obviously, I'm not gonna see titties and be like, oh god, ew, gross. No, that's not what I am. I don't care. What I had a problem with is just like, okay, is this adding anything? I've heard people say, oh, well, casual nudity is an art form. I'm like, this has nothing to do with casual nudity as the art form, and never once was advertised to be that. I've had a hard time explaining this to some people. I liken it to that 5th grade kid on the playground. You know the one. The one where they learn that they can say the word fuck and get away with it. So now every other word that comes out of their mouth is fuck. So it's like, I don't have the problem with the fuck word. I say fuck word all the time. No problem. But does it really have to be every other word out of your mouth? It's just, it lost its luster and now it's just annoying. And I mean, again, I like watching gory shows. I've watched Saving Private Ryan multiple times, but in Saving Private Ryan as a movie, it made sense. It illustrated the horrors of war. And as far as nudity's case goes, like Ghost in the Shell is one of my favorite movies of all time. The nudity that was in that was mostly to illustrate the point of she's a machine, but she still has the anatomical structure of a human. Therefore, it's really blurring that line between, is this machine or is this still human? It really like illustrates that philosophical point that they were trying to really cram home. Again, minor complaints though. Overall, show is fantastic. I would probably give it a My Anime List rating of like 8.5 out of 10. Fantastic. Couple little things that I would have changed, but that's just me. What do you guys think? Next video's coming. It might be a little slow, because clearly I'm still moving. It'll be on Full Metal Panic, so I'm currently in the middle of watching the last season of that, so hopefully, barring any further complications, I should probably be able to have the studio up and finished maybe in a week, and then I can start getting work on recording the video and getting it up. Hopefully I'll be able to get it up by, mid-October, but if not, it'll probably be closer to late October. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.